students, today we will discuss about the sentence of simple complex compound. And now let us see complex to compound, how we can change complex sentence into compound. So there are some structures here I am going to discuss, and the first one we can say, if the sentence begins with when, as, since, when, as, since, and then a part of a sentence and the other part of the sentence, and then conjunction, the conjunction when, as, since. If the sentence form of complex in this structure, so here is a subject, then verb, then object, and here is also a subject, a verb, and an object. So, and there is a full stop. So this is the structure of complex sentence. So when, if there is when, as, since, as conjunction in the complex sentence, then we can transform it into compound into the following structure. So the sentence begins with when, as, since. So, or removing this, we must begin with this part, the subject, verb, and the object. The subject, verb, and the object, and then removing this, in lieu of this we must, instead of this we must put here and the other parts will be here. This is the easy way to solve, to transform complex to compound if this structure is that position. So subject, verb, object. This is the. Let's see example. When he came here, he met me. So the sentence begins, the complex sentence begins with when, and there is a part, and there is a part, and so when is a conjunction. So we the compound sentence begins with this part. So we must write he came here, and removing the conjunction when, we must write here conjunction and then the other part. But we should remember, if the subject of these two parts are the same, then we must not write the subject anymore. So if the subject is the same of the two parts, so it will not necessary to write the to put the subject again. So must met me. So met me. He came here and met me. Another example we can write here. We can see, as he gave me some money, I bought some books of ICT. This is complex sentence as the sentence begins with S, and so in the compound sentence will be in this position. So removing the S, we must begin from this part. So he gave me some money, and after the first part we must write conjunction and then the other part. I bought some books of ICT. So the complex sentence is, as he gave me some money, I bought some books of ICT. And the compound sentence, we must remove this and we must put in the middle a conjunction and. Removing the inverted comma, we must put here and. So the structure is the correct compound sentence is, he gave me some money, and removing the comma we put here and conjunction, and then the other part will be here, has been here. So he gave me some money and I bought some books of ICT. I repeat, if the complex sentence there is conjunction when as since and then the two parts there, then the removing the when as since we must put conjunction and instead of comma, in place of comma. So when as since, removing when and since, we must begin the this from this part. So this sentence comes here, and then instead of comma we put here conjunction and the other part will be here. So will be here when he came here. This is a part, this is a part, and this is a part of a sentence. So when removing when, we must begin from this sentence, this part, he came here, and instead of comma we put here and conjunction and then the other part. And another example is, so as he gave me some money, I bought some books of ICT. He gave, we begin this part, we must use this part, and then removing the comma we put here and then other part. So this is the one example, one rules, one structure. Let's see another structure or rules of complex to compound. If the sentence begins with if and there is a part and there is a part, and conjunction is if. So in this part there is a subject and there is a verb, object, and the other parts also has subject, verb, object. If there is conjunction if, then and the subject is second person, subject is second person. If there is conjunction if and subject is second person, then the compound sentence it will be compound as we must begin with verb, main verb, then object, and instead of comma we put here and. We must put here and then the other parts, subject, verb, object, and full stop. I repeat, if there is conjunction in complex sentence and if after if there is a part and after comma there is another part, this is a complex sentence, and if we want to transform into compound, then if we must remember if there is subject and the subject is in the second person, then we must start the compound sentence from verb. So verb and object, and instead of comma we must put here and then the other part. So this is the complex to compound if there is conjunction if. Now let's see example. If you work hard, you will pass. So here if conjunction and use subject second person, so we must remove this and we must begin with the verb. So work hard and comma, instead of comma we must put here and you will pass. This is the structure of complex to compound if there is if as conjunction. Now let's see another structure. If the sentence begins with if and there and the subject, after the subject there is do not or does not, then verb, then object, and the other part also has subject, verb, object, and this is the negative, so we must cut it off and we must begin from the verb. As we want to make it compound, we make it compound, so we must begin from the verb. After do not, does not, there will be verb, so we must begin the compound sentence from this verb, and then object, then object. This will be a part, and removing the comma we must put here or as conjunction, then the other part, subject, verb, object, and full stop. Let's see example. If you do not work hard, you will fail. So here we find subject, if plus subject plus do not. So we must remove this and we must begin from work, as it is verb, and work hard, and removing comma we must put here or. You will fail. This is that. So I repeat, if the sentence, if there is conjunction if and the sentence is negative, then we must remove this, and removing this part we must put here or in the middle, and we must begin with the verb. So verb, main verb, then object here. So the first part is done, and then in lieu of, instead of comma, we put here or, and the other parts has subject, verb, object. And if you do not work hard, you will fail. And we must remove this, and then we begin with work. This is the verb, work, main verb, work, and hard, and removing the comma we put here or, and the other part you will fail. So if you do not work hard, you will fail. Work hard or you will fail. This is complex and this is compound. Let's see another structure of complex to compound. If there is so in a sentence, so plus adjective plus that in a complex sentence, there is subject, verb, this is a part, and then here is also a part, subject, cannot or could not, and the other verb or object. So this is the structure of complex sentence. So and that, we must remember this, so that, and there is an adjective. So in that case, if the sentence is in this position, complex, it is a complex sentence, and we must transform it into compound following this rule. So in lieu of so, we must put here very, and in lieu of that we must put here and. So and the adjective is in the middle, very and the middle. So the structure is subject plus verb plus very plus adjective plus and we can write here, if the subject is the same, then we can also write here and so, but and so we can write and so or and. So then subject, then cannot or could not, then verb plus object, the other parts. So full stop. I repeat, if in a complex sentence, if there is so adjective that we must know that this is a complex sentence, and it can be transformed following that rule. Removing instead of so, we must put here very, and instead of that we must put here and so or and adjective is here also, will be here. So the structure is complex sentence structure: subject plus verb plus so plus adjective plus that plus subject, cannot, could not, cannot or could not, then verb and object. And compound structure is subject plus verb plus very plus and plus very plus adjective plus and, then subject, cannot, could not, verb and object. So now see the example. Let's see the example. The man is so weak that he cannot walk anymore. So this is the structure of complex sentence. It is a complex sentence, as there is so and there is that. So it can be transformed into compound the following the structure. Instead of so we must put here very, and instead of that we must put here and. So the man is very weak, and if we write and, then subject will be removed, but if we write and so, then subject will be here, there. So and so, and cannot walk, and cannot walk anymore, or we can write here and so he cannot walk anymore. This is the structure of complex sentence. If there is so adjective that in the complex sentence, so the compound sentence structure, instead of so we must put here very, and instead of that we must put here and or and so. Let's see another structure of complex to compound. If the sentence begins with though, although, and if there is conjunction though, although, any one of this, and then comma and then other part here. This is the structure of complex sentence. And a structure of complex sentence. So after though, although, there is a part, and here is subject, verb, object, and after comma there is another part. Here is subject, verb, object. This is an structure of complex sentence. This is the structure of complex sentence, and there is conjunction though, although, and we must begin the part as it is after though, although, and removing though, although, we must begin with this part. So we must write this part which is after the though, although. So here is subject, verb, object, and removing though, although, we must put but. And the other parts here. This is another part. So here is subject, verb, object. Full stop. I repeat, if there is conjunction in a complex sentence, there is conjunction though, although, and then after though, although there is a part, and up, and there is other part after comma, or this part will be here also, maybe here also. So in that case, if there is conjunction though, although, after though, although, the part after though, although will be come first. So this part we should begin first from this part, and then though, although, removing though, although, we must put here instead of though, although, we must put here but, and instead of comma, and then other part. So this is the structure of complex, and this is the structure of compound if there is though, although. Let's see example. Though he is poor, comma, he is honest. So here we must cut the though, although, and we must begin the part with he is poor, and instead of though, although, we must put here but in the place of comma here. So, and the other part will be also, but we should remember, if thus person of the two parts is the same, there must not we put here the subject, and if there is the verb is the same, so we must write the adjective or other with it, which is opposite. So he is poor but honest. Another example we can write here. We can see, although Sumi has a bad leg, she won the first position in the race. This is a complex sentence. Although Sumi has a bad leg, she won the first position in the race. So here is although, and this is a conjunction. So we must begin the sentence with this part, as it is after though, although, this conjunction. So Sumi has a bad leg, and instead of comma we must put here, removing although, we must put here but. So but, and the other part of the sentence will be but. She denotes in lieu of Sumi, so we must remove Sumi and she, and then other word also. The first position in the race. Although Sumi has a bad leg, she won the first position in the race. So we begin from this part. Sumi has a bad leg, and removing although, instead of although we put here but. So, and the other part will be here, and we wrote here on the, and the other part here on the first position in the race. So this is the structure of complex to another structure of complex to compound. Let's see another. If there is y as conjunction, there is y as conjunction, and there is two part. Before y there is a part, and after y there is a part, and this part has subject, verb, object, and this part also has subject, verb, object. And if there is y as conjunction in a complex sentence, then we must begin the sentence with after the part y, after y this part, the part which is after y, we must begin from this part. If we transform it into compound, so this part has subject, verb, object, and removing, instead of y we must put here and. Then before y the part we will use here, and the part has subject, verb, object, and at the end, after use this part, or after writing this part, we must here the region of it, or we must the region, or we can write the region, we can write the region or the region of it, any of this. So I repeat, if there is conjunction in a complex sentence y as conjunction, then before y there is a part, and after y there is a part, and in that case we must begin with the part after y. This part will become first, and this part will become first, and instead of y we must use and the part before y, this part will come later after and then we after this part we must write this some words here, the region of it. This is the rules of complex to compound if there is y as conjunction. So now let's see an example here. I know why he came here. So here is y, and before y there is a part, and after y there is a part. So we must begin with this part. He came here, and instead of y we must put here and. He came here and then the first part before why, the part we must write after and. So I know. And after this part we must write the words, the region of it, or we may write the region of his coming, or of his coming. So I know why he came here. He came here, and the compound sentence is he came here. This part will become first and came first, and he came here, and I know this part, and then after this part we must write this word, some words, the region of it, or we can write here the region of his coming. So this is the structure of complex to compound. We can take a look from the beginning. If there is when as since, then we must put and as conjunction, and the first part will be here, and the after and there is another part. And if there is conjunction if, so after if there is a subject, and if the subject second person, then we must begin with the verb in a compound if we want to make it compound. So we must begin from the verb, and then object here, then object here, and instead of comma there is and, in place of comma there is and, then other part will be here. And if the sentence begins with if, but there is negative form, so we must put here must begin from the verb and object. Then we, instead of do not if plus subject plus do not, we must use or, and in place of comma we must use here or, and then other part will be here. And if there is so adjective that in a complex sentence, then instead of so we must use very, and instead of that we must use and so. And if there is conjunction though, although, and instead of though, although, there must be but. So we must begin the part after though, although. This part will come, we should begin from this part, we should begin the sentence, and after but there will be another part, there will be other part. So this is compound, complex to compound. And if there is why as conjunction, and the conjunction uses why, and we must begin the part after why, and this part will be here, and instead of why we must use and before why the part will be after and then after this part we must use this word, the region of it, as it is a cause.